Hello, hello. Here, episode 7 in our Mindset to Results podcast. And today, our guest is Kyle Spyrides from Australia. He is the author of the book Decide Your Destiny. Hi, Kyle.
Hello, how you going, Elena?
Great. Welcome to our show. Today, I would like you to share a little bit your story. What motivated you to write this book, and what is that story behind the book?
For sure. Thank you for having me. So, I eventually finished writing the book in 2022. However, I started back in 2020. I think one of the big reasons what made me want to share my story in 2020 was the almost chaos that was going on at that time, and I think it was probably for a lot of people a time to also at some point take pause, reflect on their journey, reflect on why they do the things that they do, and where they're taking their life. So for me, my moment of deciding to write the book came after coming back from Sydney, which is on the east coast of Australia. And I was over there because I live on the west coast of Australia in Perth. So I was over in Sydney, and my grandfather was passing away. And my grandparents, they actually became more like parents to me in my life. So when I was much younger, at about the age of 14, I had nowhere to go, nowhere to live, and I decided I skipped a couple of trains down to Cronulla where they live, knocked on their door in the middle of the night, and they came down in their gowns, their gowns, and they opened the door and they opened their hearts and they opened up their love and guidance, and I really became almost their like fifth son, fifth child, because they really took care of me and they guided me along. They helped me work through a lot of challenges and trauma in my younger years, and then they ended up seeing me through some difficult times when 2 months after I left school, which basically happened. I found out that I had a major bug eating a hole in a major organ, and I went to hospital. I was put into an induced coma, and my family were told that I wasn't going to make it through the night. Ended up making it through that night in intensive care for about a week, and then hospital for about 6 weeks. My grandparents were there guiding me through. They were always there through the many procedures, and that was at the age of 18. And then the following 10 years or so, I had to go back for multiple procedures and manage my health and talk to specialists about my longevity and things like that. So I had to develop quite a resilient mind, a pragmatic mind, and also develop more faith. And that's having my grandparents there, who really guided me and were more like parents to me, allowed me to do just that. And so I
Could you tell me why you left your parents' house at the age of 14?
Yeah, so originally I was born in South Africa, Johannesburg, and I came to Australia when I was 2.5. So when I came to Australia, my mother brought me to Australia, and my father stayed in South Africa. And my mother met someone over here in Australia, and they got married, and then his parents are the grandparents that I speak of. Growing up, you know, with uh, with just my mother, because we went to Ireland for a couple of years. Spent 2 years in Ireland with my mother and my stepfather, and then we spent 6 months in France. I went to French school for about 6 months. Didn't learn anything. Came back to Australia, and then it was just my mother and me that came back to Australia. However, my stepfather's family still, welcomed us in, and still, wanted us to be a part of the family. Uh, and then growing up through the teenage years, unfortunately, I was bumping heads a lot with my mother, and at that time, and you know, she had her own path. She was an international model at a very young age. She was on like the sets of modeling sets with the likes of the actress Charlize Theron and traveling all around the world when I was very young. So she had that sort of rise to success very early on in her life. Um, However, the home life environment around my teenage years got very toxic, and so I eventually had to find a way um, to, to survive, really. And um, at that time, I was actually kind of kicked out on the streets in the middle of the night, and then that's what forced me to find, okay, play my hand. Like, where am I going to go? Who am I going to live with? Um, those sorts of things. Just give me 1 second. So it's just a bit of noise coming through there. And that's what really made me have to go and figure out my path. And in the middle of the night, I skipped a couple of trains, and then I went down to Cronulla where my grandparents lived, and then that's when I knocked on the door, and they welcomed me in. And for many years, I try and go back and live with my mother, and try my best. However, the place that I really could kind of grow and heal and kind of, yeah, develop was with my grandparents. And that's basically who I chose to live with, and they were happy to accept me, and I ended up having a very strong bond with my grandparents.
Yeah, it is a very powerful story. Like you went through so many challenges. Tell us about your book. When did you come with the idea to write the book, and what is behind that?
Yeah, so I in 2019, I went back to Sydney, and my grandfather was quite sick, and he'd never been in a hospital or anything like that, and so he didn't have a whole lot of medical procedures or pharmaceuticals throughout his life. He just lived pretty perfectly, and so he towards the end he developed struggle with his breathing towards the end of 2019, and family took him to the hospital, and it instantly, his whole temperament changed, from the boyish, charming, loving guy that he was changed. And so the family went, all right, we need to take him out of the hospital. We need to get a hospital bed and put him into his home, because he was an architect, he designed his home. And we need to put him there, by the view of the bay with the birds, and then he can pass on there. And so I came over to Sydney and basically cared for him, um, you know, into those last few weeks. And then as he was passing, I held his hand, and I was there in the final moments and said goodbye, went to the funeral, came back to Perth, and then I found myself on the edge of my bed, and this was, a little while later in March of 2020, when everything was going on, and I had this deep moment of prayer, and I said, God, Jesus, energy, source, ether, whoever's listening to me, I just want to get on path. I just want to do the good work that you sent me here to do. I don't want to bumble around for the next 30 years. I'm not afraid of, social disapproval or embarrassment or death, or, I've been through a lot of those things through my health challenges since 18, got the scars, got the shirt. I just want to do the work that I believe I was sent here to do. And then out the corner of my left eye, as my eyes were closed, the vision of this book came out, and this was the people that are watching. That's the book, and it was a photo that my uncle took when I first came to Australia when I was 2.5, and so it had on the title "Decide Your Destiny," and I hadn't heard those words until 8 years earlier. And when I heard those words was when I was sitting on the couch 8 years earlier with my grandfather, and we weren't talking about anything, but we were in his house. And it was 2 months before I went to finish school. And he turned to me, big boyish grin. The sun came in through the window, kissing the side of his face, and he said, "Decide your destiny." And I said, what, climbing? He said, decide your destiny. I said, what are you saying, matey? What are you talking about? We weren't talking about anything. And he said, make sure that whatever you do in your life, that you decide your destiny. And then it got a bit spookier, and I heard another voice in my ear that just kind of, it was kind of like, share your story. Um, so I can't tell you fact for fact what exactly happened, what exactly that was. You know, maybe it was my own mind as I was calling out and asking. I like to think there was a higher force and a higher hand at play, helping guide me. And ask and you shall receive. And I really was asking, and I wasn't playfully asking. I was quite demanding with my asking. And then this book came out, and then I went, okay, wow, decide destiny. Let me backwards engineer. Steve Jobs talked about joining the dots, looking backwards. So when in my life did I decide my destiny? Where were there times where other people decided my destiny for me? What mentors, what heroes, what my family, who are people that helped me to thrive and decide my destiny, and how did they decide their own destiny? And what does that mean? And so it ended up being 7 sections: youth, family, heroes, purpose, mindset, heart and soul, God and wisdom. So it's 7 different sections and 22 chapters in the total of the book. And then at the end of every chapter, there was an exercise. So there's stories, but I didn't want it to be a woe is me, war and peace sort of thing. I wanted it to be, here's the story, here's what I learned, here's what you can do this exercise now, and you can change your life. So, for instance, one of the first exercises was, I want you to revisit a time when you had some childlike characteristics that benefited you. Maybe you were relentless. Maybe you were curious. Maybe you had boundless energy. What are some of those characteristics that we can bring back into our lives today that can help us and benefit us going forward? Maybe you were fearless and a little dangerous, but in a good way. And so work out what are those 5 childlike characteristics and make it personal for you. So what was it? What were they for you? Not talking about me or a mentor or your hero or someone you idolize, like you. When did you show these characteristics? So that's one of the exercises.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is definitely a very good book to read. Yes, where you share your life stories and what you took, what you experienced, and how you overcame those challenges, and also decide your destiny. It is such a very deep title, decide your destiny, because people may think that their destiny is already like given, yeah, like decided for by somebody else, and people may even not think that they can decide their destiny. Maybe they don't think that they can be the person who can achieve the big results, big dreams. And this title encourages to look at this, like who am I today? Am I the somebody who told me who I am? Yeah, and somebody who told me what to do, or I can discover myself and decide who I want to become, what my destiny will be. And by making this decision and making changes in the way how we think and how we feel and act, this is what starts making the change.
Yeah.
How did you decide your destiny?
So very early on, when I had the health challenges, and I think what really brought this to the forefront was 2020, everything that happened in that year. Um, the word we all heard, unprecedented. Um, and so I think it brought it to the front of my mind, that, hey, I've got a story about, you know, self authority. I've got a story about, becoming the authority of your own life and choosing your own path. And so that's what I think really brought it out for me when I was 18, when I went into hospital. You know, 2 months after leaving school, I was thinking about, oh, I'm going to play international rugby. I'm going to go here. I'm going to travel there. Like the world's your oyster at the age of 18 when you leave school. What am I going to do? What am I going to study? Who am I going to be? And, you know, it all started, I came back from the gym one night because I was big into the gym because I was wanting to become an athlete. And I got really, really, I came home, put on the TV. It was this movie, and it was Independence Day. So, aliens and fighter jets. So I thought, how good is this? Let me settle into this movie. And then all of a sudden I got really hot. And then I stripped off all my clothes, was completely stark naked on this couch. And then I got really, really cold, put everything on, put duvet on, big blanket. And that was the start of it. And then for about a week, I proceeded to get more and more ill. And then eventually I, ended up in the hospital. And I told the nurses, because we took an ambulance to the hospital, and I said, look, I can't, use the toilet. And they said, well, the reason you can't use the toilet is your organs shutting down. And they looked at their paperwork and they said, you weren't supposed to be here. You were supposed to go through to ICU. We need to get you through ASAP. And then they put a tube down my throat, and the doctor said, look, we're going to put you to sleep now. You're so sick at that time. You just go, yep, sure, whatever. And then my family were told, look, he's not going to make it through the night. Do you want to operate? Do you not want to operate? It's up to you, your call. And then this is where one of my first heroes came into play, which was my stepfather. And my stepfather at this time was still living in Ireland. And my family called him, and he had a lot of, health knowledge. And they called him and said, this is the situation. They said they can operate. It's either or. We have to make the call, but that, he's not going to make it through the night. And he said, look, I'm not there. You guys have to make the call. It's your judgment call. But, it seemed to me that possibly he's too weak to operate. And so anyway, long story short, they didn't operate. I woke up a week later. My stepfather came over, and he said, look, this is the situation. You've got this 3-centimeter bug. It's eating a hole into your heart. And you had a 33% chance of surviving. And that's why in the book I talk about the subtitles from a 33% chance. So I've had a 33% chance of surviving. And then he said they can operate now, but what happens is going to cut major parts of your organ off. You're going to have metal attachments. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. Your life's going to be restricted in all these different ways. And for me, I was 18 and the world was my oyster. And then in the flick of a second, it was taken. And so he said, look, this is all you have to do is sign this paper, and you go in and you have this procedure, the surgery. So my stepfather went to leave, and he told me that there's this other option. And he said, there's a thing called this alkaline diet. And I said, what's that? And he said, basically, it's an alkaline diet. It's a juice cleanse. What it does is you have it and it changes the ecosystem of your body. And you basically rob the body of any sugars, of any carbohydrates, anything that the body would sustain off of. And so you basically change the internal ecosystem of your body, and you drive and you starve the bug out. That's the philosophy of it. By no means am I giving any medical, prescription or anything like that. Just sharing my story. And so for me, that's what. And I had no idea. My nutritional understanding at that age was eat lots of eggs, eat lots of steak, do bicep curls, do bench presses, build your muscle. So he was coming to me with this whole new thing, and I said, well, look, I trusted Ward. I trusted my stepfather. He'd always done right by me in my life. He's always looked out for me, and always wanted the best for me. And one of the reasons why I came to Australia was because he wanted me to leave South Africa, because Australia is a much safer country. And so he pushed a lot, to look after me, and he had a bond with me. And so I said, look, I trust you as a man. I don't know about this stuff. Never heard of it. at school. All those years of learning, never learned about it. Uh, you know, and indoctrinated into other things at school, but I never learned this. And I said, let's give this thing a go. And then we ended up doing this. He had a beetroot juice in his bag right away, and he handed it to me. I had a taste. I went, oh, I got instant regret. This just tastes disgusting. I don't know how the hell I'm going to be able to do this. Um, and so then it was for 6 weeks. It was juices, vitamins, salads. It was putting my fingers over my heart, learning where the mitral valve was, commanding it, saying heal, heal, doing visualizations. My grandmother had these tapes of peaks and valleys. All I remember is peaks and valleys, and that was my kind of like Buddhist, like sort of retreat in hospital. I was just focusing on this. I ended up going from 95 kilograms of muscle down to about 77 kilograms, and in this time. And so eventually at the 3 week mark, we went to the doctor and were saying, well, what size does this bug have to get down until it's a non-issue? And he said at 0.5 centimeters. If it gets to 0.5 centimeters, it's not an issue anymore. And so we kept working, very, very much against the grain, very, very much not to the, not pleasing the people that we were around. Most of my family were against me. Everyone, in the environment was against me. I had a core group of a few people that were with me on this mission. And that was enough. And so at about the 3 week mark, the bug was down at 0.2 centimeters and was a non-issue, and we had successfully got rid of the bug. And it was a shock to me. It was a shock that this worked. I don't think I truly believed that something like this could work. And so then that we ended up doing that, and then that was me really deciding, and with assistance and someone else helping me decide the direction of my destiny. You've got two roads here. You can go this way, and this is what the outcome is going to be, or you can try this way. But if you try this way, you're going to have to fully commit. And I think that's the same thing for our destiny. Elena, you spoke about, there's people that believe that everything's predetermined, predecided for them. And the question I'd have for those people is, it's that Les Brown quote, the most people, die at 20 and make it official at 80, or the graveyard is filled with so many people's dreams. So if everything's predestined, why aren't those dreams fulfilled? And I think that's a big highlight on, actually, it's our job to fulfill those dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody is genius, is unique, and has unique destiny, but it doesn't come automatically. It doesn't come itself. We should find this as a treasure, as a hidden treasure, and all this success formula ingredients, they are like a hidden treasure. It is not taught in school. It is not taught in even prestige universities. People have to find them, and it is the same in regards to destiny. It is not that your destiny can be told by anyone else. It is not your parents, even if they love you and want the best for you, but still they don't know much about you, right? So this is the only way how to find yourself is through study. When we study ourselves, when we start asking the questions and start thinking, because most of people don't think, they just live according to those programs in their subconscious mind, and they think as they are they think as they are conditioned to think, right? And many people think that their mental activity is their thinking. And that's why many people just live according to these programs and they don't live their lives. And only when people start thinking, so deciding what they really want and finding who they truly are, what is their potential, what is their gifts, and who they meant to be, only then they can start taking it serious and starting thinking who I want to be, what is my big goal, what is my big vision, and then who I have to become in order to fulfill that vision. Yes, and from this process, they can start making decisions and decide their destiny.
Exactly, exactly. And what you said there about studying yourself, I find that interesting to this day. Studying, like you said, why are you thinking? What thoughts are on autopilot from your parents, from your schooling, from how you reacted to something, and then to safeguard you from pain or painful experiences. And it's very interesting. Instead of always looking out and critiquing, maybe other people, like, and we all do it, but if we can really like study ourselves every day, I find that the most interesting thing, because sometimes you go like, man, why do I keep doing this? Or why do I keep doing this thing? Or why, when this happens, do I do that? And what you're doing is you're trying to rewire your brain. You're trying to rewire, you change your behavior. Um, which is, if you want to pick up a challenge that's going to take time and it's going to be interesting, and a bit difficult, it is that. But it's just it's so interesting that there's so many different layers of how we do things, and we don't really understand why we're doing them because of our subconscious.
Yes, it is not automatically when we create the greatness.
Yeah,
Automatically is to do something that we don't want. It is like the
yeah,
soil. Yes, when we want to plant a seed of fruits or vegetables, yeah, like trees or bushes, whatever, we have to put that seed and we have to remove the weeds because
yeah,
the weeds grow without any effort. They just grow.
yeah,
But when we want to put something valuable, which we want to grow, it
yeah,
needs our attention and persistence and doing this, right, consciously. And the same is with us, because we have from the Bible, we know that we have the sin, right? The sin in our DNA, so we are not perfect. And that sin automatically shows in our behavior as those weeds. And only when we become aware of that and start planting our seeds from that big picture, who we want to become, what we want really in life, what we want our destiny to be, then we just start putting that efforts and consciously growing seeds which we want to be. And that is how we transform our lives. And it doesn't happen automatically. It just happens when we understand where we are in life according to the level of our consciousness, what we see and what we receive. And only when we start raising our awareness and doing what we are not used to do. So it is always doing something uncomfortable because it is new. It is new patterns, and when we do them towards our destiny, towards our decision, this is how the transformation happens.
exactly. And I love how you did that. How you shared that about constantly, continually thinking about, am I watering the seed? Am I nurturing the seed? And think of that with our thoughts and our behaviors that we want to change. Because as soon as we go into autopilot, or we're not conscious, and we're not showing it attention and care and diligence, then we lapse back into those other thought patterns.
Yes, and it is very easy to just conform and just think, okay, this is my destiny, what I can do. Yeah, like this is how everything was meant for me. So this is very easy way, right? It means that the person just doesn't want to fight for
Mm,
himself. Just
mm,
doesn't want to even be like even dare about something big, and
yeah,
it doesn't help. Yes, so it is so important to have that mindset of the person who embrace the challenges, and instead of thinking that this has happened to me, so what can I do? I can do nothing, and of course I will do nothing. But if we have this mindset of embracing challenges and seeing that it is always according to the law of the opposites, there is always good in the same proportion to the bad. And if we have this mindset to look for good and embrace the challenges and think that this is given for me for the reason, first reason is that I can overcome this if I do the best. I can overcome because every challenges are given for us to grow and transform and see bigger picture if we have the right attitude to the situation. And if we have this attitude and we have that courage, these challenges can become our milestones, and overcoming them, then we can discover the big power which we were not aware that was in us.
Exactly, exactly. And each new challenge, you know, like you said, it can become like an award or a certificate and something on your notch, you know, like a feather in your cap, because you now know you've got greater confidence, you've got greater self-esteem. You know that, hey, if I'm put to the challenge here, if I'm put to the test here, I know that I can overcome. And I think that's one of the greatest, you know, rewards. It's an immaterial reward, but one of the greatest rewards is your own personal integrity. And you know, in the book I share, and one of my core beliefs is one of the most important things on this planet is the integrity of your soul. And you know, that means living a good life, but it also means like becoming your greatest self, because in becoming your greatest self, you're going to have to do things that a lot of people might go, ah, I don't really want to clean up that mess. Oh, I don't really want to try that hard. I don't really want to help that person. I've got too many of my own things that I need to worry about. And you're looking very me. Where when you want to have, you know, that integrity of your soul and live a good life and reach your greatest potential, you're required to actually look out from yourself, and I think live a much more ethical life, a life that where you build more faith, and a life where you're actually consciously connected to everyone else and how you can help them, you know. And at the start, we can't help everyone in a myriad of ways, and but we can do our bit. And I think if we are better, if we are stronger, if we've got more wisdom, if we've got more information, if we've overcome things, we can help people. You just look at something like technology. You know, the younger generation can help the older generation with some technology things. You know, that's just one way, but it's 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 important to matter, and and if you have your integrity of your soul as an important part of your life, then yes, the easier option or the lazier option is to do nothing perceivably, but really it's the harder option, because you're going to be neglected. You know, you're neglecting yourself, you're neglecting your own best self, and also people gravitate, like you said, there's equal parts negative, equal parts positive. You know, people gravitate to that positive energy source, that person who's contributing, that person who's helping, that person who can give you the answers. You know, look at like when you travel somewhere new, you look for the person who's got the information of where you need to go, or how do I get to that place. You know, you naturally gravitate to that person, and you're grateful and you're thankful. So that's where I think it's really important, you know, and a part of deciding your destiny. Well, in order to decide your destiny, you really need to start putting things in order in your life and becoming someone really valuable to people, not just in the business sense, but even in a deeper spiritual sense. Like, you know, I can say, Elena, this conversation with you and some of the things that I've learned about your perspective and some of the ways that you say things has become valuable to me. So we can all be of value to each other.
Yes, definitely. And I liked how you said about the faith. Yes, so I think that it is very connected to decide your destiny having the faith, because if we want to have that big picture, we should understand that who we are today, it is not who we can become. Like it is just a very small percent of our potential. And why we are here, it was just because our experience and many different situations in the past and how we were conditioned to think, and this is what results we have. But if we speak about the destiny and we look in future, we should have that ability to have the big picture, yes, and understand that it is so much to learn. So if we are open minded and if we surround ourselves with people who already more successful than us, and if we are always ready to learn and grow, this is how we come to that big picture. And the faith is important as well as believe in ourselves, right? We have to believe in ourselves that we can, although we might not know how to do that, but we have to believe that it is possible, because if I want this, it means that it is already there at different frequencies, because everything already is created. Nothing can be created or destroyed. So all the energy just transforms from one to another. And if you have this mindset about seeing us as that big picture in the future and who we really want to be, what we love to do based on our unique talents and gifts, it will give us the inspiration, and we will wake up every morning inspired by this growth, by this potential which is in us, and having faith in God and universe that will provide us the right next step when we are ready, when we are doing today what we meant to do.
Exactly, and you've got to believe in something. So either way, you get to choose. Am I going to believe in something that's going to get me and help me with those steps towards that destiny every day, or am I going to believe in the person that's saying it can't happen? So it really just comes back to that choice and that decision and that mental consciousness, and your conscientious decision making and the attitude, because you're going to believe in something either way. You're going to choose a direction either way, and you're going to be here for a certain amount of time, and you're going to either be floating along and being in the water and just kind of flowing along like a little bit, like a bit of litter or a lily pad or something, or you're going to really decide where you're going. And that's the message that I think. And I think if we've got communities, and you and I know it. If you're part of communities, you're part of groups, you're part of, you're connected with other people that are all doing this. It's very positive. There's no conflict. There's no, what's your background? What country are you from? What's your religion? There's no bickering and nastiness. It's, hey, I'm running over there. You're running in the same direction. Okay, how can we help each other there? And that to me is another beautiful part of choosing a name, choosing a destiny, and going after it.
Yeah, yes, exactly, exactly. Community and being part of mastermind, and also uh, having role models. Yeah, like having those people see their success and see where you want to be in different areas of your life is very important, because it is like that bacon, yes, like which we set that goal and we want to be there and we want to become that person who we meant to be. This what keeps us inspired every day, because we have this clear picture, and it will manifest in the physical form, because there is the law of of the perpetual transmutation of energy, and everything what we can hold in our mind, it must take physical form. So when we see that other people achieved something and they can do something, it means that we also can. Yes, and success leaves clue. So if we just use the principles of success, and when we do whatever it takes, when we plan our days, when we committed, we persistent, we have that clear vision, it will take physical form.
Exactly.
So Kyle, Can you tell me one advice? Can you tell us one advice if yeah, if it would be something that you would like to share or advise with people who are going through challenges and maybe they are at that place that they don't know like what to do or how to overcome that situation. What would be that advice?
100%, I can. One of the things that really has helped me recently has been focusing on getting good at one thing. So I think that the feedback loop. So for me, I would I would get I went through the ages of teenage years and had a lot of the challenges and really struggled during those years and in all honesty really didn't know if I wanted to be here and that might seem pretty intense and dramatic, but when you've got so many things maybe that are going wrong in your life and you're got pressure and you're almost condensed. And then what happens, and where I think my health issue came from, was I contracted. I pulled back from life. I pulled away from the energy source of life because I wanted to protect myself. And that's when I believe I created a dis-ease, truly in my body, because I wasn't expanding in life. I wasn't like my younger self. I was pulling back. And so I think the big thing, if you're going through a struggle, is becoming aware of your temperament, becoming aware of how you're moving. Are you pulling away? Are you pulling back from a lot of things, and not kind of being yourself naturally around those things? And that might be people, that might be because of a lot of different traumas. But what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to get back to that person, that kid who's out and engaged with life and jumping on trees and playing with toys and grabbing things and learning. And you want to get back into that energy flow because that's thriving, that's life, that's a living person. The other thing is slowly deteriorating and dying. So understanding that clarity is really important, and whatever can get you back to that is important. So one of the things is, it might seem like, oh my gosh, how am I going to go from this inward almost turtle, out to this flying dove? How am I going to go from that? And the first thing I'd say is just focus on something that you can get good at every day, that you can just pile on a little bit more, a little bit more. Recently, in my job, I've been called to do like door knocking, and I've never had to do this in my life. In my businesses, it's always been digital and I've done phone calls and all those different sort of ways of marketing, but I've never done door knocking. And I went and chose an area that was elderly. It was basically the suburb that was like one big retirement village, and it was by the beach. And I took a suburb report of how much the value of their properties have gone up, and I had something to give, something of value to give. I knocked on the doors, and I got such a wonderful reception that gave me just a little bit of a buzz. It gave me, on my second house that I knocked on, this lady invited me into her home, took me all around her home. I couldn't believe it, that someone was so trusting, and ended up meeting people and just so I chose the right environment, the right location, a bit more of a receptive community, and that really helped. And then I went up the street. I think it was something like 100 houses. Spent 4 hours. So it was a real and up and down these hills, and I was sweating after it. So it was a challenge. It was something like to overcome. And one fellow person was also a Greek South African, and they invited me into their house, and they had a chat about where they were from, and so I had a win, and I had a buzz, had a bit of momentum. And the important thing is to not just leave that and go, great, I had a good win. I'm just gonna put my feet up for the next while. That's your door out of that inward frame, and that's your door to start stepping out and out to that more expansive, creative, childlike sort of characteristics. And so what I'd say is just choose something, make a plan, write it down. Even if it's just one piece of paper and just a couple lines. Where am I going to go? When am I going to do it? What am I going to do? And then go and do that. And if you get good at one thing, repeat it, and it will start to energize you, and you'll start to build. That's where all these peripheral characteristics of confidence and self-esteem, and you start liking yourself a bit more, and you start not beating yourself up as much. And people say, you know, like I had someone say to me, you're personable and you're likable and these sorts of things. And for someone to say it and see it in us, it's a lot clearer. Maybe for us, it takes 100 people to say it until we wash away all the self beating up sort of stuff that we do, and we go, oh, maybe I am likable, maybe I do have these characteristics. And then you can start walking with a bit more of a swagger, and you can, so that's what I would say that's helped me. When I was 14 and I was going through those challenges, one of the things I chose was a big goal. I talk about in chapter 2 the choosing a cosmic goal, like a vision. And for some reason, I just had this idea of playing rugby for the Springboks, for the South African rugby team. I never got that chance, but that goal, as Bruce Lee says, the goal, the purpose of the goal is really what you become in pursuit of that goal. And so instead of having, focusing all the things that was challenging in my life at the age of 14, I was focusing on that goal every day, and I was going to the gym, and I was working out, and I was watching rugby videos, and I was totally immersed in this goal, in this vision. So, whatever it is, just choose something and just start taking steps towards it. And you will start, and if you'll start finding, in the book I talk about, so you're really tapping into your old self, or who you knew you were. Who was I before I had these experiences that inflicted pain on me, and then I decided to just shield myself from any other experiences that could also inflict pain. I'm with you. I've done that. That's what I have done. And so you're going back and you're working out who was I before I decided to morph into this thing. And then all you're doing is you're just peeling back the layers and becoming more of your true self bit by bit.
Yeah, amazing advice. Yes, think big and grow to your all potential, doing what you can do, and planning, and start with small things. And when we plan and we do and we get results, that is what brings us confidence. And it is very important to have that big vision, big dream, which will inspire us and gives us that energy to start moving towards the greatness. Yeah, thank you, Kyle, for being with us today. I will share the link for your book in description to this video, and I think that so many people will benefit from your book and from your life story. Yes, so thank you for being with us, and I will see you again somehow in the future.
Thank you, Elena. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much.